tropical paradise composed of multiple small islands in the middle of the ocean. This may sound like Hawaii. What I'm actually describing are the Azores Islands of Portugal. Many Azoreans have come to the United States, immigrating mainly to New England and moving all the way as far west as California and south as San Diego. I myself have lived amongst Azoreans for several years and be able to participate in their cultural festivals and religious practices, which I am very grateful for, and give the opportunity to observe them and how they act and how they are. I have been told I have Azorean roots, but if I am, then I'll be blessed to have some. They're very unique and individual people that get overlooked and compared to other societies in the United States. But they are worth learning about. Now, to observe a people and to learn about them, you must first look at their lifestyle, then how they govern themselves, and then with how they contribute back to the rest of the world. Now, back in the Azores, they tend to be a very peasant-like people, meaning that they tend to be poorer, participating in agricultural and fishing practices. They tend to not have as much money, tend to be more of a third world class. They participate in growing fruits and vegetables, mainly producing wheat, but also some agricultural products such as wines and cheeses. Islands like Fayal and Pico for their wine, and St. George for the very famous cheese. And up until the 70s, whaling was a big part of the culture in the Azores. In fact, it was a major part. They had practices of whaling that had dated back all the way to the 1850s, that they were still practicing up to the 1970s. Traditions strong amongst them. Tight-knit group and tight-knit people keep the same traditions going on for generation after generation. In this folk art exhibit here, you can observe a Portuguese woman working in a field to show that they're very hardworking people, very agriculturally based lifestyle. You also notice the kind of colors are very bright, very vibrant. The patterns are quite interesting to represent the tropical climate which they live in. Now, they're very bright people with very bright practices. They're also very religious. Their vast majority are Roman Catholic. They have a lot of Catholic festivals and festivities and feasts that have traveled all the way back here to the United States. According to the New England Historical Society, there's a festival that's been going on in New Bedford, Massachusetts over 100 years of generation after generation of immigrant descendant coming and carrying on the same traditions. They're very traditional people. When it comes to governing themselves, it's a little different. Azoreans do have their own government as an autonomous region, still being part of Portugal, but they do have their own legislative branch, judicial branch, and executive branch. There is such thing as an Azorean president. And the way they stand amongst the rest of the European powers is quite interesting, because they are the farthest west part of representing the European Union. They are members of the European Union, and the European Union has seen this and invested heavily into them, technology and infrastructure, of which they've been able to develop themselves from a third world country previously, being the region that they are, and then moving up into the developing regions category with the investments. European Union action plan for the section has done what it has in investment in order to promote where it is, because being in far west gives it the opportunity to have many other countries interact with Europe and the European Union at this point. Many ships coming through will definitely pass the Azores, and they'll be the first examples of what it is to be a part of the European Union and the sphere of influence that they have, which is why they've invested so heavily in it. Now, those investments are being well spent. Azores has spent multiple excursions to research and development, and they've looked into different forms of energy, of which they are very well known for. Looking into geothermal energy in specific, they're very volcanic islands, and so geothermal energy is very important. They've observed that 20 megawatts of power from natural gas compared to 700 megawatts from geothermal energy, study done in San Miguel Island by the U.S. Department of Energy, has been very underappreciated. Now, if that were to be harnessed, you could power the entire island, continue powering the island with growth for multiple years, many, many years in the future. And that's something that we're looking to as a country, because we ourselves need to look into more renewable sources of energy. Another fact that Europe and Azores has been looking into especially Azores in particular, because they're the first ones to implement this system, is a V2G system, vehicle to grid, meaning that power and energy that's used from electric cars and hybrid cars that were not expelled are then being put back into the grid to be used in other locations. The owners of those cars would be reimbursed for the energy that they give back to the grid, giving them a good reason and incentive to not waste energy and then give it back. Versus using energy, wasting energy, it makes them more energy conscious. It makes them more think about other ways and better ways to use the energy and not have to waste it. Versus places like us in the United States who tend to just use energy and waste energy on things that we can't really control or don't really need. It's a good example to follow, which is why we were looking into it. The Azorean people have put many feet forward. They've made many proud steps as an independent people, as a very proud people in the way that they are and culturally. And that's something that hasn't been noticed as much before. But now is the time to notice it. Now is the time to look at the examples that such a small island cluster has made them international, make them worldwide, so that we can practice these amazing things that they have done. The Azoreans are very proud, hardworking, seafaring people that have gone unnoticed for way too long. They are worth learning about because of how much they can provide to the people in other countries and to the world. And if these people aren't noticed, we are not learning. We are not gaining the knowledge that we need to gain from them. We are not growing as a society.